Thanksgiving Day, 1968. While families across the United States gathered around the table for turkey and pumpkin pie, 6 men were deep in a jungle in Cambodia, surrounded by 30,000 enemy soldiers. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. It was a mission so secret that the American government officially denied those men even existed, that they had never been in Cambodia, that they had never crossed into forbidden territory. A mission that would only be declassified decades later. 6 men against 30,000, and the only thing standing between them and death was the speed of their legs, the precision of their hands, and a radio operator with a finger on the emergency extraction button. This is the story of the Thanksgiving mission, and the man who led it. To understand what happened on that Thanksgiving Day, you need to know about an organization that the American government took decades to admit even existed. MACV-SOG, Military Assistance Command, Vietnam, Studies and Observations Group. Loosely translated, Studies and Observations Group. A completely generic and meaningless name, deliberately created to reveal nothing about what those men actually did. What they did was this. They went into countries where the U.S. officially was not. Laos, Cambodia, North Vietnam, forbidden territories where the American government publicly denied having any military presence. While U.S. presidents assured the world that American forces were not operating beyond the borders of South Vietnam, hundreds of MACV-SOG operators were exactly in those forbidden places, doing exactly what the government denied. MACV-SOG was created on January 24, 1964. It was a mix of the best, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Marine Recon, U.S. Air Force commandos, and CIA agents, all working together on missions that did not officially exist. They operated in small teams, usually 2 or 4 Americans accompanied by 4 to 9 local mercenaries, and they faced odds that defied any military logic. It was common for a 10-man team to be surrounded by hundreds, sometimes thousands, of enemy soldiers. It was common for every mission to end in an emergency extraction under heavy fire, with the helicopter lifting off seconds before being destroyed. It was common for operators to return from missions that no military manual would classify as survivable. John Stryker Meyer was 22 years old when he led the Thanksgiving mission. His teammates called him Tilt, a nickname he earned from spending hours playing pinball as a teenager in Trenton, New Jersey. He was a Green Beret. He was the leader of Spike Team Idaho, ST Idaho, and he was about to lead the most impossible mission of his life. November 1968, Vietnam was on edge after the Tet Offensive, the surprise assault by the North Vietnamese army that had shocked both the American military and public opinion in the United States. And then, something even more alarming happened. 3 entire divisions of the North Vietnamese army simply disappeared. The 1st, 3rd, and 7th NVA divisions, around 30,000 highly trained soldiers, had vanished from American intelligence radar. They were part of a force of approximately 100,000 North Vietnamese troops operating in Cambodia, and their sudden absence from surveillance reports triggered massive alarm in Washington. If those 3 divisions were regrouping for a surprise attack on Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, the consequences could be devastating. Someone had to find them. Washington authorized a secret mission. St. Idaho, Spike Team Idaho, under the command of John Stryker Meyer, received the order. Enter Cambodia, locate the missing divisions, determine their position and intentions, and get out without being detected. The mission sounded simple. Go in, observe, get out. 6 men, Meyer, his fellow American John Bubba Shore, and 4 fully trusted local mercenaries, Sao, Hiep, Phuoc, and Tuan. Men Meyer knew, trusted, and deeply respected. Sao was the veteran of the team, 3 years of secret missions. Meyer had only 5 months in MACV-SOG, but what he lacked in experience, he made up for with instinct and leadership. On Thanksgiving Day, while America ate its turkey, St. Idaho was at the Special Forces camp in Bu Dop in South Vietnam. A helicopter landed bringing something unexpected, a full Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, gravy. Meyer and his men ate. Well, It might be the last decent meal for a long time. It might, they knew, be the last meal of any kind. The Air Force Huey helicopters lifted off with St. Idaho and crossed the border into Cambodia. Meyer looked out through the open door at the dense jungle below. A thick, impenetrable green carpet that could hide anything that wanted to stay hidden. The team was inserted at a landing zone, a small clearing in the forest. The helicopters disappeared, and St. Idaho was alone. The mission started well, very well in fact, too well. Within minutes, the team found signs of an enemy camp, fires still glowing with embers, abandoned equipment, fresh tracks. Meyer began taking photos, documenting exactly what the mission required. That was when Sal went silent. The veteran's eyes that had survived 3 years of impossible missions, widened. He looked at Meyer with a seriousness Meyer had never seen before, and said 2 words in French, "Beaucoup VC," a lot of enemy. Meyer couldn't hear anything, couldn't see anything, but he had learned the most important lesson of his time in MACV-SOG. When Sal got that look, you didn't question it, you acted. "Call helicopters now. Beaucoup NVA, come now," Sal said, his urgency rising. Meyer called for extraction on the radio. Then he looked around. They weren't in an abandoned camp. They were in the middle of an active operations base of the 3 missing NVA divisions. They had found the 30,000 troops they were looking for, and the 30,000 troops had found them. Suddenly, from every direction, North Vietnamese soldiers began appearing between the trees. Helmets, uniforms, AK-47s raised, coming from the south, coming from the north, closing the circle. The run for survival began. Meyer fired his M79 twice into the air, smoke grenades to create confusion, and shouted to Bubba, "Move out!" St. Idaho ran. Sal placed a claymore mine behind a tree and ran. The mine exploded. The NVA kept advancing. Hip set another claymore with a 5-second timer and ran. The second explosion dropped a line of enemy soldiers, but more kept coming. Meyer and his men ran, fired, set traps, ran again. Every 100 meters, more NVA emerging from the jungle. They were like ants, Meyer would later say. You killed 10 and 30 took their place. Finally, they reached the landing zone, secured the perimeter, waited. The helicopters were on the way, but the NVA were closer. Meyer looked back and saw enemy soldiers emerging from the jungle less than 50 meters away. He fired. His men fired. The sound of Huey rotors grew above the treetops. The first helicopter touched down for 2 seconds, just enough for the team to jump in. The door gunner saw NVA soldiers charging out of the jungle toward the helicopter, gave Meyer a thumbs up with a grin full of pure adrenaline, and the Huey lifted vertically under a storm of gunfire. They made it out, all 6 of them, alive. When the Huey landed back at the base in Budap, Meyer and Bubba did the first sensible thing anyone would do after escaping by seconds from 30,000 enemy soldiers. They went to eat. The Air Force pilots invited them to their Thanksgiving table, and Meyer and Bubba had their second Thanksgiving dinner of the day. Turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, everything. Their hearts still racing, adrenaline still in their veins. When they returned to headquarters for the debriefing, the officer who had sent them on the mission met them in the hallway. He wanted a report. He took them to dinner, and Meyer and Bubba ate their third Thanksgiving dinner of the day. Meyer wrote about that moment decades later in his book. We had come within moments of a violent death and had killed an unknown number of NVA soldiers who continued to earn our unwavering respect. I felt no pleasure in killing the enemy. It was simply us or them. Meyer made sure Sao, Hip, Phuoc, and Tuan received the same treatment, the same dinner, the same celebration, the same recognition. To Meyer, there was no distinction between the Americans and the local mercenaries on the team. They had gone in together, come out together, survived together. The mission was a complete success. St. Idaho had located the 3 missing NVA divisions, confirmed they were regrouping in Cambodia, and provided the intelligence Washington needed for its next strategic moves. All of that with 6 men, who officially were never there. MACV-SOG continued its secret operations until 1972. Over 8 years, its operators completed hundreds of missions in forbidden territory, under conditions that defied any definition of possible. The casualty rate was so high that the US government denied its existence for decades, because admitting what those men did meant admitting the human cost of a war the country was losing the will to fight. John Stryker Tilt Meyer survived Vietnam, wrote 2 books about his experiences, and spent decades making sure the stories of the men of MACV-SOG, most of them still unknown, would never be forgotten. The US government denied for decades that MACV-SOG even existed, denied that those men had been in Cambodia, in Laos, in North Vietnam. And while the world didn't know, they kept going, mission after mission, in silence. No public medals, no recognition, only the mission. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, subscribe. There's much more coming.